Speaker, so I feel that this debate has been misconstrued from the start, right? That from the opening government, they say that this is specifically about oppressive regime, but at the same time they say that it's okay, there are other alternatives exist. But you have to tell us, especially in those circumstances when these other alternatives exist, why should you resort to shutting down dialogue in the first place? That is the problem that we have in the case of the whole bench of the government. The big picture to you is that this debate actually ran on two different things, right? First, they want to talk about oppressive regime, where no alternatives exist. And then there's the second bit where they say alternatives exist, but they still want to make it legitimate. I'll tell you why they will fail on both sides of the case, right? Let's look into the first idea of the oppressive regime, right? You look into the case of immolation of these monks. Simon told you in his speech in the first place, and also you guys should know in the first place, if this is an oppressive regime and they have a grip hold towards media, what makes you think that first, they're not going to downplay it, second, they're not going to play it towards their own benefits. In the idea of China, where the monks actually self-immolate, China used those particular examples to garner national support to tighten their grip on Tibet, right? That is far off worse. That person at the end of the day died in vain because of this oppressive regime. You have to tell us, in these circumstances, these people who are systematically oppressed will get the recourse that they need. And will they reach that sustainability and that objective that they wanted in the first place? Sit down. Are those objectives forwarded with suicide, right? Let's look into more about this. Does that death forwarded? We say we're far off better when you want to fight against an oppressive regime. Your death means nothing to them. They're far happier that you die, mainly because they don't want dissent. They are systematically crushing dissent. So if you are one of the part of the sentence, then fine, go die. We won't care. That's why at the end of the day, they die in vain. This is very different when you say those people are martyrs, but they fought first before they died. That is the particular difference. But before that, Albert, I'll give you a chance.
Ma'am, do you think that utility and whether or not they reach the end goal is the only yardstick for legitimacy of the tool for protest?
I'll show you more why is it not legitimate in this part, right? It's not just about utility, it's not just about sending a message. More importantly, is it sustainable? You say you want to talk about it being legitimate in this sense, we tell you that first, your criteria was that it's legitimate because it's morally right. Never have you justified it in the first place within both of your speeches, right? Let's move on further. Does this dilute the causes? They say they're closing. You said you wanted them to collectively die, even better. More people die, I don't need to do anything about it. But, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at this. Suicide in itself is ambiguous. How can you know to a certain extent that they are fighting a particular cause? But when you die, it's up to others to take up your cause. At best, they may or may not take it up. At worst, they will corrupt that particular cause that you wanted to fight for to begin with. Isn't it far off better if you fight for that cause and you yourself die in the battle of toppling that particular regime? In the worst case scenario, you take up arms against the government, right? We say this is not an effective tool. Moreover, ladies and gentlemen, you need to forward the cause yourself. You can't wait for others to do it for you. But before I move on towards how worse off you guys are as closing, go on.
Your opening opposition friends came up here with celebratory life towards life and how we should preserve life at all costs. Why are you not sending them off the wall and saying that it's okay to let them fight against the enemy?
Guys, this is what you guys keep misunderstanding. Guys, celebration of life means you don't die in vain. It means that you don't die for no good reason, right? That no good reason is because your reason is not good enough for them to die because they die and they just stop the dialogue at the end of the day. Nothing's get done under your barrier. Let's look into where the alternatives exist. Albert, you can't tell me at the same time in your speech, right, that alternative exists. You're assuming alternative exists and alternative, they are out of option at the same time. Nothing like that can exist in your case. It's a contradiction direct. Sit down, right? Ladies and gentlemen, sustainable in a liberal democracy or or in a more liberal place, right? When you look into existence of these alternatives, right? Firstly, Sailesh already told you, if it's a justified cause, right, people will support it, and it's far better that you allow the person to tell the story to the media, right? To tell the story that what he is or he or she is particularly fighting for. Isn't that far better off at the end of the day, right? Then you have the idea of conflicting groups that Sailesh talked to you that Noel, you didn't wanted to talk about. Let's look into this, right? Let's say, I give you an example, right? You have a pro-choice and pro-life group, right? Both conflicting. And then suddenly, the pro-choice group, because of choice, they decided to die. What happens in that, Fisherman? Yes, you thrive on people's empathy, you thrive on their sympathy, but it doesn't forward your cause. Because to a certain extent, people will rationally think that it shouldn't be what you should be doing. People are rational to a certain extent to know these things need more information, right? Let's look into more about labor law, social security. If you lose suicide, Fisherman, you shut down dialogue. You don't forward your cause. What makes it worse is that, yes, you want to make this legitimate, you make all other things illegitimate and shut down. Why? Because the government sees shit. You have a bunch of people who are suiciding, using only suicide as a form of tool. How about the other instances where you have protests, sit-downs, strikes, hunger strike, right? Or meet your representation, or not pay tax. Those kind of sustainable, long-term types of alternatives will get shut down because why? The government doesn't want to talk to irrational people who take away their life. You are deemed as irrational. Your cause, even if at best it is a justified cause, you corrupted yourself by choosing to die at the end of the day because you shut down the dialogue. The government can't talk to you. Neither can the society really adjudicate what you want at the end of the day. Mr. Speaker, sir, within closing, opposition takes this debate mainly because the government never told you why is it adequate just because it is something they choose to do, it is legitimate, and they don't even have a proper context whereby is it under the oppressive regime, which we prove to you is not going to work, and is it under a liberal society where alternatives exist, whereby we tell you, moreover, they shut down dialogue. With that, we're very proud to oppose